On the Thursday of the second to last day of my sophomore year, my brother Nick and I decided to go out on a limb and go shopping in Grand Rapids. So we hopped in my dad's 6-month-old Chevy Cruze and we were on our way. Still to this day, we don't know why we took his car, but I can tell you one thing, I am so thankful that we did. Once we were finished shopping, we got a bite to eat, and that made us trying to leave Grand Rapids at 6. We all know how hard that is. The traffic was bumper to bumper, and we were inching towards the light. Once we got close enough, we merged into the left turn lane at the corner of Remembrance Road and Wilson. My brother was getting a little antsy while we were sitting in the turn lane, so I decided I'd lighten up the mood and show him a new song that a friend showed me. So I plugged in my phone into the aux cord, and I played Juice by Chance the Rapper and turned the volume up. Then finally we were the second car in line, and the light was green, so my brother followed the car in front of us and sent it. The gap wasn't big enough. I looked over and saw a purplish van inches from my window. There was no time for Nick to react, to try to get us out of the path of this fast-moving van. About 1,000 thoughts ran through my head, and not one of them were about me. They were all about Nick, hoping that he was okay. Everything happened so fast. I remember hearing my brother's voice and his hand gripping my shoulder. When I felt the car come to a rough stop, I brought my head up from my knees and looked at my brother through the little layer of smoke that was lingering from the airbags exploding. I shook my head yes after he asked me if I was okay. I could feel my heart pounding along with my whole body. My eyes started to water and my breathing became really heavy looking at my brother with tears in his eyes. We had about 20 bystanders come up to the car, peeking in through the airbags that had broke all the windows, asking if we were okay before the cops even showed up. Nick got out of the car right away, but unfortunately I couldn't. The doors and dashboard were smashed in so far it pretty much made a molding around my two calves. As I looked around, I started to cry even more. I thought about trying to stop to act tough, but I really couldn't. My arms were bleeding, and I could feel something sharp in my right ankle. I was getting so anxious sitting in that smoky car without my brother, sitting there in pain, when finally the officer and the ambulance guy came into the back seat to check if I was okay, and all they said was, "Can I get out of the car now?" while wiping away the tears. They explained nicely that they wanted to check to see if I was okay first. I asked where my brother was, and he reassured me that he was fine and he was trying to get a hold of my dad. The firefighters tried to pry my door off to get me out of the car, but they couldn't, so they pulled me out through the driver's side. I could barely stand. My knees were shaky. I looked down to see my ankles for the first time. They were dripping blood from what looked like a deep hole, and my arms felt like someone was stabbing it 1,000 times with a knife. I looked around and saw Nick talking with the ambulance guy. I could feel my stomach start to knot up and my palms start to get sweaty, just thinking about the punishments we're about to go over with the police and thinking about how mad my dad will be scared me half to death. But that wasn't even what we were going to talk about. He was just there to make sure that we were all okay. I was taken into the ambulance while Nick was forced to give his information to the police and explained what happened. The very nice ambulance guy was very calming as he cleaned up my arm. He told me that it was a second-degree burn from the airbags being deployed, and the 2 cuts on my ankle still had pieces of glass stuck in them. After about 6 minutes, my dad showed up and pounded on the ambulance doors, forcing the doctor to stop what he was doing to let this man in. I calmly said it was my dad and went over there and gave him a big hug and apologized for his car. At that moment, I was so worried with what he was about to say, but he just said, "Don't worry about the car, that's fixable, but you're not. I'm so glad that you're okay." Tears instantly started to roll down my face, and I was doing that sobby thing people do when they hysterically cry. Everything was smooth sailing until I got out of the ambulance and actually looked at the car. I didn't really have a chance to look at it, and honestly, I didn't really want to. My heart throbbed, and all I could think was I was in that car. I saw the other car that was involved also, the purplish minivan. The hood was non-existent. It was crushed so much. I was in pure shock. The police came up to me along with my father and mother, She was bawling her eyes out. I could not hold it together. That made all the tears come back up. The car was totaled. There was no doubt about it, said the cop. The wheel was turned outward because the minivan hit right on my door. The cop and the firefighter both came up to me and said, "You are two lucky people. That was some hard impact, but the car is what saved you. You had airbags everywhere you could think of." I can say, in that moment, I experienced something that really scared me. Scared me enough to really cherish moments because just like that, everything can be gone. And when we got home, that was the first time my brother has ever come up to me and gave me a hug. I was no longer sad. I was just happy to come out with only the injuries that I had and Nick with none. My brother Nick said, "I love you, Savannah."